Hey movie fans, so a few days ago James Gunn made some comments about the upcoming Batman movie, Batman Brave and the Bold, and basically what fans have been wanting to see from the DCU version of Batman. He said that some things in particular were highly requested, and yeah, those are kind of on my list as well. So today I'm going to give you my top 10 things that I hope to see from the DC Universe version of Batman, also known as Batman Brave and the Bold. But before we get into it, I want to hear from you guys. What are some things that you desperately need to see from this new version of the Caped Crusader? What are some things that you really hope that they do to distinguish him from all the other previous live action versions of Batman? All that out of the way, let's kick us off at number 10. I would love to see a continued evolution of hand-to-hand fighting with Batman. I actually really liked what Zack Snyder did with that whole warehouse fight in Batman vs Superman. Didn't love the movie as a whole, but even the people that don't love that movie point to that as a standout scene, as long as you're watching the theatrical version, not the extended cut where he's, blatantly ending these criminals to a permanent end. Yeah, but the hand-to-hand combat for Batman has always been pretty hit or miss in the movies. You've got Michael Keaton, who had incredibly limited movement. You had Christian Bale in Batman Begins with incredibly limited movement. And then you had the Snyder stuff, which had a lot more movement, but if Batman is supposed to be this expert martial artist, I would love to see a continued evolution of that. I would like to see a Batman that is able to be fluid in his movements and have a suit that lets him be fluid. Get the guy that did the stunts and the choreography for Shang-Chi or the John Wick movies to do the stunts choreography for a Batman movie. Oh yes, please. We've gotten some good detective stuff from Batman. We've gotten some great action scenes. But I want some good martial arts action from Batman and, some other members of the Bat family that are known for their acrobatic skills and fast-paced fighting styles. I've been foreshadowing to later on in this video, I guess. Next up at number 9 is I would like to put an emphasis on the lesser known citizens of Gotham / somewhat allies of Batman. What I loved about James Gunn's Superman, among many other things, is his emphasis on the Daily Planet reporters. I love seeing Steve Lombard. I loved seeing Jimmy Olsen. I love seeing everyone else in that environment, Perry White. I want the same for Batman. I want to see Harvey Bullock. I want to see Renee Montoya. I really want to see Leslie Tompkins because that's kind of a big character that's been relegated to mostly just the comics. Heck, throw in Silver St. Cloud. I don't care. Give us some other love interests or some other characters besides just, Talia and Vicky Vale, because Bruce has had a lot of women in his life. Just give me other Gothamites in this universe. Make it feel fleshed out. Superman as a movie felt fleshed out and lived in with its use of supporting characters. And a lot of the things I'm going to talk about on this list are just things and ideas to flesh out the universe. I'm tired of Batman being a standalone solitary figure that doesn't really interact with his other world. He's not always sequestered to Gotham, and he's not always sequestered to his hole within Gotham. Let Gotham feel lived in. Let there be other stories being told within Gotham and other characters to help flesh out this universe even more. Next up at number 8, this is solely for me, but this is actually one that I could totally see happening. Again, looking at Superman for inspiration, and that is Ace the Bat Hound. Give me Ace. He's the bestest boy. I think this is very likely just because we had Crypto being such a key integral part of both Superman, and now it seems like he's going to be a big part of the upcoming Supergirl movie as well, especially if you've read the comic that it's based off of. I loved Crypto's inclusion. It also, brings in the animal lovers into the theaters. I love Ace the Bat Hound. Continue to flesh out the Bat family, but give them Ace the Bat Hound. He's an underutilized character even within the comics, but he could be a fun addition. He's not necessarily like the most make or break thing within Batman canon, but Ace the Bat Hound could humanize Batman, and also, come on, Ace crossing over with Crypto. I know we had that animated Super Pets movie, which admittedly was better than it probably should have been. And I don't necessarily need, those to cross over in live action form, but Ace the Bat Hound is a character that I think could easily distinguish himself and make this Batman stand apart very, very quickly of, oh yeah, that's the one with the dog. It's something different and fun, but come on. You know you want to see Ace in a Batman movie. Next up at number 7 is something that I'm genuinely baffled that we've never gotten in a Batman movie up to this point, and that is an actual accurate Batcave. The closest we've probably gotten is the Michael Keaton one, but even then, there's some things that I'm specifically requesting this Batcave have that we've never gotten in live action form. I want the gigantic penny. I want the gigantic Joker playing card. Give me the T-Rex. I need these 3 specific things. They are just the iconography of the Batcave. Even if you just get like a 1-second shot of the cave, those have to be there. And also, they would go a long way of establishing that Batman has pre-existing lore and canon in this universe. We don't necessarily need to see those previous adventures, but the fact that he's got these trophies can kind of do some world building for us already. Yes, Batman's gone on these big adventures. Plus, they're just big parts of the comic. Like, every time you see the Batcave in the comics and even some of the animated movies, those 3 tentpoles are there. The penny, the card, and the T-Rex. They're always there, and I'm just baffled that we've never gotten them in a big screen adaptation. And it's maybe because, and we'll touch on this a little later, a lot of Batman movies have tried to adhere to this like realism thing, which is fine to a certain extent. You can do that with Batman. You can be more realistic and tell more realistic stories, but at the same time, I just want a giant T-Rex in the Batcave. I don't think that's too much to ask for. Next up at number 6, this is kind of nitpicky and getting on a soapbox, but I don't care. No more repeat villains, at least for this first movie. Batman has such a wide variety of villains and such a vast array of untapped villains for movies. I was so excited when Matt Reeves announced his Batman movie, and I was like, okay, cool, what villains are going with that we've never seen before? Riddler, Catwoman, and Penguin. Don't get me wrong, I love Matt Reeves' Batman, and I'm super excited for the Batman Part 2, because it seems like there might be a new villain that's never been done in live action form before, and it might be one that I'm very emotionally attached to, but that's a discussion for another day. I was just kind of disappointed going, that's 3 villains we've gotten before. Some of them we've gotten a few times with Catwoman. Batman's got so many great villains that have never gotten their due on the big screen, like Man-Bat, or Hush, or Court of Owls, or, you know, a comic-accurate Ra's al Ghul. As much as I liked Liam Neeson, that's not really Ra's al Ghul to a certain extent. There's so many characters in the Batman pantheon. Ventriloquist could be super cool. We're getting a Clayface movie, so maybe Clayface crossing over with Batman at some point. Give me the villains that have been underrepresented in Batman movies, please. We can go with other characters at some point, like a Joker, like a Two-Face, like a Scarecrow, but let's wait a little bit and give some characters like a Professor Pig, maybe. Let's give some characters that have not gotten their time to shine a little bit of a moment before we start going with the bigger names, so to speak. Next up at number 5 is the basis of this whole video, because when James Gunn was asked what's the most requested thing for Batman Brave and the Bold, he said the blue suit and the white eyes. Both of those I desperately want. More so the blue suit and the blue and the gray suit over the white eyes. I would like to see the white eyes, but it's not as much of a deal breaker as it is the blue and the gray. Like, I want that. We have not really seen that since the 60s Batman. I actually wouldn't be surprised if at some point Robert Pattinson's Batman gets the blue, maybe like at the end of his arc, because Matt Reeves has said how much he loves the 60s version of Batman and has been inspired by that. But that's just a theory for another day. I love the blue suit. It's just the comic suit. Like, the Batman drawn by Jim Lee for the Hush arc, that to me is like the most perfect visual representation of Batman, and it's the blue and the gray suit. My favorite comic cover of all time is Batman 615 with Batman and Nightwing running side by side. You know, big shocker there. Both of them have the blue in that. Batman's got the blue and the gray, and Nightwing's got, you know, the greatest suit of all time with the blue and the black. It's just fantastic. Once again, in the middle of that Hush arc, give him the blue and the gray. Maybe the white eyes, but something else with the suit that I haven't seen nearly enough people talk about that I really want, that I think has been underrepresented in superhero media in general is, and I know this might be difficult from a practical standpoint, I want the Bat cape to go over the shoulders. I'm so used to, in both comics and movies, when Batman is just standing there next to other Leaguers or members of the Bat family, the cape kind of covering the front of him for an intimidation factor, and just that's how the character is represented. And every Batman we've gotten up till this point has more or less had the cape behind him. And I get that might be for mobility or just for aesthetics. Give him the big oversized draping cape, or, you know, have multiple capes that you do for different like CGI shots or for live action shots. I want that like cape that covers everything and just a little bit of the emblem peeking out in the front. Yes, please have it come down to his feet. Oh, come on now. Like, why is the cape always just a little bit shorter than the feet? No, have it drape and be like an actual, even maybe like do it like they did with the Batman animated series, where it's like kind of pointed at the end and it looks, you know, like a bat. Maybe I'm just getting into the really nitpicky here, but blue and gray with a cape that goes over the front, please, and maybe the yellow logo. That might be asking too much here, but make the suit a little different than previous movie versions. This one has to stand on its own and make it unique. What's going to be the unique element this time around? Getting to our top 4 is where I really am like, these are the things that we need to distinguish this Batman from all other Batmans that we've gotten up till this point. So at number 4, I have fantastical elements. We need things that are comic booky in this Batman movie. I love a lot of the live action Batmans we've gotten up till this point. The Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. But they limited themselves by how realistic they had to portray stuff. And even still, to a certain extent, the Matt Reeves movies do that as well, of this is very grounded and realistic. And there's merit to that type of storytelling. But at the same time, I want Batman to fight over-the-top, fanciful storytelling villains and have big over-the-top comic book moments. I want an actual Lazarus pit that resurrects people from the dead. I want Clayface, and we're getting that. I want Man-Bat. I want a Batman that lives believably in the same world as a Superman that loves everyone. I want a Batman that lives in the same universe as Guy Gardner. It could potentially cross over with that character. I want to see Batman interact with the fantastical elements. I'm tired of him being this grounded and greedy character. Yes, Batman is a greedy character, but he has some of the most over-the-top comic booky stories of all time when they require it. Batman doesn't always have to be this, I have to believe and exist in this whole universe that is grounded and realistic, or, you know, just Chicago if you're the Dark Knight trilogy. Let him be fanciful. Let him have bombastic comic booky type stories that are still Batman stories at the end of the day. I'm not saying completely go cheesy and over the top like the 60s stuff, but at least kind of take your comic inspirations and make it a little more fantastical and a little less grounded. Next up at number 3, I talked about how I want a Batman that feels like he could exist in the same universe as the Superman that loves everyone or Guy Gardner. I want this Batman to cross over with other characters. Up until this point, except for Batman vs. Superman and Zack Snyder's Justice League, Batman has been a single solitary character with, you know, occasionally sidekicks in Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Batman has so many crossover stories, whether it's him crossing over with Booster Gold or Green Arrow, or heaven forbid we actually get our world's finest movie where it's Batman and Superman working together, or the Trinity with him, Wonder Woman, and Superman. Batman, as much as DC Comics sometimes portrays him as a loner and the movies portray him as a loner, he crosses over with other characters. I want this universe to feel fleshed out and lived in. Even if it's just for a scene or two, have him interact with other iconic DC Comics characters. Whether that's a David Cornsworth Superman cameo, or John Stewart Green Lantern, or Booster Gold. Booster Gold and Batman do actually have a very interesting relationship in the comics that maybe we'll see at some point. I just want Batman to cross over and not be on an island. As much as he tries to put himself on an island, he's not. He has friends, he has family. Let him cross over with other comic book characters for once. Which leads me to my number 2. I'm just gonna lump them all into one category here. The Robins. You know me, I've got to have some Dick Grayson at some point. I need Nightwing. Now here's the thing, might be happening sooner than we think, just because originally when James Gunn announced this movie, it was, oh yeah, this is Batman fighting alongside Damian Wayne as Robin. And according to some rumors, that might not be the case anymore. Now, we'll see to what extent, but I'm not as confident as I used to be that Damian will be the Robin that we see in Batman Brave and the Bold. I think we will get a Robin. I hope we get multiple Robins, if not in this movie, but in the future. Thing is, the Bat family is so underrepresented in Batman movies. Yeah, we've got plenty in the comics and even in the animated stuff, but the movies for so long have treated Batman as a loner that has Alfred and Commissioner Gordon, and that's it. Because of how Batman and Robin did, they've been so scared to even broach the subject of other members of the Bat family. But to do that takes away some of the most beloved characters of all time and Damian Wayne. Dick Grayson, one of the greatest characters in comics of his whole arc of going from Robin to Nightwing to ultimately being Batman. He has one of the greatest storylines in comics, I think, with some of the, the worst moments with the Rick Grayson stuff. But he was a character that was actually allowed to grow and age, and it was fantastic. Then you get Jason, his Red Hood stuff is significantly better than his Robin days, but whatever. He's not my favorite, but I don't dislike the guy. Tim Drake, comically underrated. Even the comics don't like him these days, but he's a fan favorite that people have been clamoring for, and maybe even one of the best pure Robins out there. I'm not opposed to Damian. We can get Damian at a later date. Damian is the end game of Robins. The fact that we started with that, if that was originally the plan, I always thought was such an odd move. But giving Batman an actual Bat family flushes out the world. It shows he's been doing this a lot longer, but he's not alone as much as he tries to think he is. It gives him these other allies to work with. It also opens up more avenues for storytelling, which leads me to my number one thing that I want to see from Batman Brave and the Bold. Specifically, I want to see Batman as a father figure. The thing that I am so tired of with Batman movies, as much as I love them, is making Batman just by himself with Alfred limits the emotional moments that you can have and storytelling that you can do. He's not always stuck in this emotional rut that the movies put him in. He's not always so somber and depressed and sad. When he gets Dick Grayson, when he gets Damian in his life, these Robins actually help the character evolve and grow. He's not stuck in this emotional rut anymore. I want to see him as the father and the mentor figure. I want to see, and not just because I'm selfish and Dick Grayson's the best, I want to see Dick Grayson as Robin and see how that interaction is different and see the straying relationship before he ultimately becomes Nightwing. And there's a little bit of an understanding between the two, because that makes a lot of sense, and it's a good emotional story beat we could have. Or even, as much as I'm not a big fan of Damian, the whole Batman actually trudging through hell to get his son back is a cool story that you could tell. Or Under the Red Hood, the whole loss of a child and the child comes back for revenge. There's a lot of good emotional story beats you can tell, and having Batman be a loner for so long has limited the stories that they could tell and kind of puts Batman in this specific bubble that is not really what the character is. Yeah, he's got his moments in the comics still, but the character has grown past that. He's a father with a big family that he is not always the best at showing that, but he does care about his family. And ignoring them for so long has limited the stories that we can tell. I'm excited for the future of that Matt Reeves Batman movies, because how his first one ends leads me to think, okay, we're gonna actually embrace the healthier sides of Batman, so to speak, of like this growth thing, because Batman as a character is growing. Nightwing is Batman's greatest success because he actually had the growth and the development, because he had this father figure, this thing that Batman never did. So it's the story element of, I'm going to do what was taken from me. I'm going to be the father figure. It's something I just think makes all the sense in the world and could easily distinguish this Batman from all other versions of having a Bat family and being a mentor. I want a good mentor Batman. Don't just put him in this bubble of isolation. Batman is so much more than that. Give him all the possible storytelling that you can do, and that involves bringing in the Robins and making him not an island anymore. Let him have a whole Bat family. Well, what do you guys think? What are some things that you desperately want to see from James Gunn's DC Universe version of Batman with Brave and the Bold? Whatever your thoughts, let me know down in the comments below, as I can hear from you guys. And as always, if you like what you see and want to see more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.